This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. And anomalous, really anomalous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, TYT Nation, welcome to the show. I'm back. A little bit of a long weekend. Took some time out, self-care. All of us have to at some point. We, of course, have some breaking news today that is a little distressing. That sucks, but we'll get to that. Okay, so look. I took some time off over the weekend. Got to playing some Final Fantasy VII Remake. Very good. No, they're not a sponsor. But I had a nice time not worrying about politics. So, all right. But we're back. A lot of news. We're going to continue, of course, talking about coronavirus, including what's happening in the Trump administration. What's Trump doing? Well, we'll see. Let's just talk about that. We've got the post office as well in some big trouble. We've got the details on that. We're also going to talk about, of course, Bernie Sanders a little bit in a minute. And of course, that involves breaking news, and then a little bit later on. And then we've got grocery store workers, essential workers, literally dying on the job. So now we're going to talk about that later on in the show. All right. So anyway, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Helps out. Also, consider sending super chats. Those are always good. They help the show. We need your help more than usual, which is basically all the time. So we need your help. YouTube is very stingy. And let's just say that, because it's true, you guys are the majority of you guys are the reason this show can exist. So please help us out. All right. Anyway. So now, so we have some breaking news. Joe Biden has been endorsed by Bernie Sanders. So look, we knew this was coming. Bernie Sanders at the beginning of the campaign made 1,000 promises, probably more than 1,000, saying, yes, I will support the eventual nominee, no matter who it is. So look, a lot of people, you shouldn't be surprised about this, even though there are people that are online right now acting like they're surprised. You shouldn't be surprised. He's literally doing exactly what he told us he would do. So now, look, if your reaction to that is, yeah, I know, but I don't care, this is where I break with Bernie, that's perfectly fine and reasonable, right? Okay, hey, look, you knew it was going to happen, and you say, this is where I step off, and I go and do, my own direction, whether it's be, Green Party, whether it be leaving the, doing a write-in or leaving the thing blank and just voting down ticket, that's all up to you. As long as you don't vote Trump. I wouldn't go that far. Might have a problem if you want to vote for Donald Trump. I know there's the people that want to stick it to the DNC. That's not sticking it to the DNC. They want Trump so they can make more money. Like, they don't care. They make money if they have Trump. They make money if they have Biden. So now, again, if you're going back, if you're disappointed, totally understandable. I am disappointed as well, but I knew it was going to happen. I'm disappointed at the way that this entire thing turned out. And so, again, if you're disappointed, if you're sad, totally normal emotions to have. Believe me, I feel them as well. So that said, of course, he's going to get hate from everybody. He's getting hate from the left. He's probably still getting hate from centrists. Oh, why didn't you endorse sooner? Finally, right? Why did it take you so long? Look, we all know the truth, right? The truth is, Bernie Sanders, if Joe Biden has the same problem as Hillary Clinton, and I foresee, unfortunately, a very good likelihood of this happening. If Joe Biden loses to Donald Trump, right? The establishment candidate, the moderate, loses to Donald Trump. They're going to blame who? Yeah, they're going to blame Bernie Sanders. Of course. That's what's going to happen. And so we all know it. That's going to happen. It's going to happen. And so, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. And so that's, what are you going to say, right? Let's see. I'm just going to read some comments. Look at some comments here. I won't vote Trump. I'll sit this out. Understandable. Look, here's one thing you're not going to get on my show. Vote shaming, right? So that's one thing that irritates me, pisses me off, right? You got all these people out there that are like, no, you better vote for Joe Biden or else you're going to get Trump. Okay, look, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. You're an adult. You make your own goddamn decisions. I'm not going to sit there and try to micromanage everybody, right? I'm as far as like my opinion on who I think you should vote for, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for because that's not my business, right? My business is who I vote for. So no, I'm not going to make any endorsements. I'm not going to do that because there's nobody in this race that I believe in. No one at all. And so not going to do it. I'm not interested. The only thing I'm interested in is, look, obviously I want to beat Donald Trump, but I think the Democrats made a terrible decision. And so I don't think it's possible. And I'm just going to look at the reality of the situation. So, and that's it. Yeah, okay. Look, again, I'm not going to vote shame. I'm not going to tell people who to vote for. If you want to blame me for Donald Trump, that's fine. Go ahead. But seriously, I don't give a damn what random people think on the internet. All I care about is basically advancing policy. Now, look, if Bernie Sanders thinks, look, we'll go with Joe Biden because at least we have a better chance of trying to push progressive policy. I get it, but I don't think that's going to happen. Joe Biden's not a good vehicle for change, but neither is Donald Trump. So we got turd sandwich and giant douche all over again. And so this is 2016 redux. So look, if Joe Biden wins, okay, that's better than Donald Trump. But if Joe Biden loses, well, then it's going to be, I told you so, and we're going to get blamed for it. And that's what it happens. So that's unfortunate in today's news, but that's the reality, and we're kind of stuck with it. So do what you're going to do, Don't obviously. I say, please don't vote for Trump. I'm not going to. But other than that, that's your business, man. Do I think there's a shot at having Bernie as VP? No, absolutely not. For one, Joe Biden has said we're going to have a woman VP. So that's what Joe Biden promised, right? That is one thing that I do actually think he'll do that. So what he's going to do is he's probably going to pick from a couple of people. I'm hearing Whitmer and I'm hearing Klobuchar. So if you're, which look, Gretchen Whitmer is basically owned. She's my governor, right? So I live in Michigan, and what she's doing is that she's basically the mouthpiece for Blue Cross Blue Shield Michigan. So she listens to health insurance lobbyists. Okay, well, hey, that's she got a lot of money from health insurance lobbyists when she was running for governor against Abdul El-Sayed, who was the progressive candidate, a much better candidate. And so, look, hold on here. So, look, that's one potential pick, somebody owned by health insurance companies. All right, whatever. Then there's Klobuchar. Klobuchar, I think she was sixth. Yeah, I believe she was sixth in the Democratic primary. She excited approximately 2.5 people. Wow. Congratulations. That'll be a tremendous pick. Awesome. And so I don't think, look, maybe he'll pick Kamala Harris. She's got a whole host of problems, but she fits those, little check boxes, right? And so there's that. Okay. Hey, man. I guess if that makes you think that, you're going to win people over, okay. But again, what I'm hearing is Klobuchar and Whitmer are probably the two best choices that he is considering, even though Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren are on the list. I don't think Elizabeth Warren's going to do damn thing to get progressives, and that's the thing. She's really worried about that. Or, I'm sorry, he is losing my train of thought here, but he is worried about losing the progressive vote, but not worried enough because he's not going anywhere when it comes to policy. And so, anyway, all right. Got some super chats here. Mark Davis says, I think the only reason I'm going to vote for Biden is because I don't want Trump appointing any more judges to the court. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, he's already stacked the judiciary and stacked the Supreme Court. And so, okay, that's fun. We've got a generation of conservative court picks anyway that Democrats just sailed through. But I understand. I understand the thought totally. Elwell says somehow Bernie simultaneously has enough influence to make Hillary and Biden potentially lose to Trump, but he's not influential enough to be electable. Look, I was saying it before. It's just two different electorates. What you have a general election electorate and you have a primary electorate, and obviously the primary is just not a place for someone like Bernie Sanders to win. And that's and that's again not representative of the average voter. Primary voters are far more passionate and partisan and more party line people, as we've seen. Look, Stacey Abrams, Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee's too progressive, I think, for Joe Biden. I'm probably not going to pick her. Stacey Abrams is a maybe, but I don't know. We'll see what happens when he actually does go to make his decision as what's going to happen. So we'll see. We'll see. Well, they could have, but they didn't. They did not interview Bernie Sanders very much on TV. And in fact, I think they tried to keep them off TV as much as possible. And so that's what I think. All right. So we should probably move on. Whoops. Here we go. It looks like President Trump's patience with Dr. Fauci, always correcting him on his nonsense, has finally run out, as we knew it would. This is after the doctor said, of course, more lives could have been saved from the coronavirus had the country been shut down a little bit earlier. Trump, of course, did not want to do that. Maybe because of his precious economy, stock market, the things that he was basically counting on to run for re-election. Now, his stock market crashed anyway, as the virus made its way all over the country, of course. And now we're in the position of having the most coronavirus cases out of any country, even with our lackluster testing, right? How most people have not even been tested, and that you already have to have been shown significant symptoms in order to get a test. And even in that circumstance, still not being able to get tested. All right. So now this factual statement from Dr. Fauci saying, hey, maybe we could have done a little bit better had we caught it soon. Had we acted on the information that we had sooner. But hey, it is what it is. Well, that was enough to trigger the baby in the White House. And so he took to Twitter because, of course, and reposted a message that said it was, quote, time to fire Fauci. Yeah. So now the message that Trump retweeted came from a former Republican congressional candidate. So this is somebody that took on Nancy Pelosi, and she got about 5% of the vote in California. So, I mean, loser. How do you lose to Nancy Pelosi? I guess you have to run as a Republican. Okay, anyway. So now Fauci, she says, is now saying that had Trump listened to the medical experts earlier, he could have saved more lives. Fauci was telling people on February 29th that there was nothing to worry about and posed no threat to the U.S. at large. Time to fire Fauci. So, by the way, the name of that congressional loser is Deanna Lorraine. And so, okay, well, hey, if you want to look her up and see how much of a loser she is, that's fine. You can do that. In reposting the message, Trump added, sorry, fake news. It's all on tape. I banned China long before people spoke up. Well, wait a minute here. Actually, the president did not ban China. Now, if he's referring to the travel restriction, okay, yes, you did a travel restriction, and that was fine. And look, let's be fair about this. Fauci disagreed with that. He said, I don't think it's going to do a whole lot of good, just doing that travel restriction alone. And actually, he'd be right. Even so, the president said, well, Fauci didn't agree with me. Yeah, not at first, but then said, okay, look, the travel restrictions, I guess it's not a bad idea, but really the reason that we could benefit from that is so it gives us time to prepare, right? Because it is going to come to America. And so we want to be prepared, and that'll buy us some time. Okay. And so look, on January 30th, Fauci told Alex Azar, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, that he and other medical professionals did actually support that travel restriction from China. But again, it wasn't enough. Experts said the limits were useful to buy time, and that time, again, would be necessary to prepare. The administration did not prepare. They sat on it for 3 months. They sat on it and did absolutely nothing. So they've essentially wasted the time that they bought. Okay. Now, at the end of February, advisors have made a list of measures that the administration could take to slow the spread of the virus. Things like school closures, sports and concert cancellations, stay-at-home orders, the stuff that we have right now. But Trump, again, did nothing until mid-March. all while publicly saying all sorts of misinformation. Oh, it's like the flu. It's not so bad. Everything's going to be fine. No, we don't need to shut down the economy. What are you talking about? And then, of course, mid-March, he shut everything down, all while publicly saying all sorts of misinformation. Again, right before then, and then suddenly saying, right, okay, yes, it turns out this is kind of serious, so let's do something about it. And it got everywhere. It's a national disaster now. And the problem is that it's far greater than it should have been. Now the idiot, he's looking at firing Fauci and opening the country back up soon. Why? What's the point of it? And what? It's because of the precious stock market? Well, I don't care about the stock market. I don't care about any of that stuff. No, I care about human lives. And it's an incredibly stupid idea to open it back up too soon, because then what happens? People go out and they start spreading the disease. There's a second wave. More people die. The cycle starts all over again. But here's the thing, right? Trump hates two things: being wrong and people being disloyal. Pointing out how Trump is wrong is a great act of disloyalty. Another thing that bothers Trump to no end is, of course, the polling. Quinnipiac University poll last week found that 78% of Americans approve of Dr. Fauci's handling of the crisis, compared to 46% who approved the president's response. So they like Fauci, the American people do, and they trust him more than they trust Donald Trump. Well, that makes sense, because Trump's an idiot and Fauci is a professional. He's an expert. Even when, he sometimes even agrees with Donald Trump. So, but they trust him because he's right, and he is an expert. But here's the thing about Trump, again, that frustration eventually turns into rage. And it won't take long for him to start attacking Fauci on Twitter. You don't think it's going to happen? Oh, it'll happen. It's actually already begun. And so if he's, and the other reason too is, again, that poll number, he's going to try to discredit Fauci. And that's what he's doing right now in order to reverse those polling numbers so that people trust him more than they trust Fauci, and then they can get rid of him. And that's the thing. And once that happens, well, we lose another expert, all because of the baby in chief. Fun times. Okay. Let's move on here. President Trump spent his Easter weekend in the most Trump fashion, calling his friends and complaining about facts. So now this is according to a report in the Daily Beast. Over the weekend, the president picked up the phone and began dialing various close advisors and associates to ask him their opinion on how soon he should open up the U.S. economy and call for Americans to start resuming business as usual. Now, this is according to 3 different people familiar with the conversation. So now the question of when we should open back up is an important question, right? You can't have the economy shut down for good. That's no good for anybody. But at the same time, if you open up too soon, then you risk a second wave. So far in America, we haven't even hit peak infection. We can't test everybody. And so, I mean, they keep saying, like, the worst is yet to come. The worst is yet to come. The worst is yet to come. Well, okay. Look, when the worst does get here, and then it's over, and the medical experts say, okay, now it's time, it's safe to go out, well, that's when we should go out. And like that might take some time. It might not be until, this fall. It might not even be safe this fall. So, I mean, again, opening up too soon would be a disaster. It would invite a lot more problems. And so we don't want to do it too soon. And again, we don't want to do it too late, either. But anyway, okay. So again, that's an important discussion to have. So now In the Daily Beast, they write, the subject of when to ease restrictions and guidelines as the death toll has risen in the tens of thousands, and governors in the federal government have struggled to combat the coronavirus, has been a major point of debate within the upper ranks of the Trump administration. It's even a bunch of people who don't know what they're talking about. But look, I actually have to go back with and apologize a little bit for Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro actually was warning how badly this is, and he had a stack of papers and reports and is like, hey man, this could get pretty bad. So like, why don't we do something about it? Now, he's not a medical expert, but he turns out that he's kind of right. Like, you don't have to be a medical expert to see that other experts, actual experts in the field, were saying that there are significant issues with this, that we would face with coronavirus if it gets in the United States, and if we don't take action to try to flatten that curve. And lo and behold, that's what's happening right now. And so Navarro was actually kind of right, but nonetheless, you have other people in the administration saying, no, let's open it up sooner. Let's open it up soon so that we can all get back to business. We can all get back to work. Oh, great. So now, the president has often advocated highly optimistic and at times even negligent positions on the crisis. Certain key members of his Corona task force, including Fauci, the director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, have urged for a more cautious, patient approach, particularly on reopening the United States for business. So now that matters because over the weekend, especially on Easter, Trump was like, God, I can't get this guy off my mind. I can't think about anything else other than Dr. Fauci. And so now he goes and calls his friends. Quote, what do you think of Fauci? The president reportedly worked into his phone conversations over the past few days, the three sources said, as he pulsed his broader network of informal advisors, industry allies, and current staff on their opinions on the news of the day. Now, none of that includes medical experts. Yeah. Which it should. I mean, they would probably know best in this situation. I'm just saying. But no, we're going to ask the industry experts, the ones that make money off our labor. We're going to ask those guys. And I'm not going to be surprised if their opinion is, yeah, let's get them back to work. We don't care about our employees, obviously. We just need to churn out widgets. Oh, well, okay, that's great. Now, it gets more ridiculous, though. At one point this weekend, Trump remarked that he, quote, made Fauci a star and that barely anybody would have known who the doctor was were it not for the president putting him front and center in the administration's coronavirus response, televised press briefings, and media strategy. Look, Dr. Fauci has been at least in this position for like the past couple administrations, Bush and Obama administrations, if I recall correctly. So I didn't know who he was. Nobody knew who he was, but he was doing his job. And that's good because look, in that we had H1N1, which, wasn't as bad of a pandemic as this. Yes, it was significant. Ebola was also very significant as well. But the administrations handled it actually quite well, much better than this current administration is handling coronavirus. Okay. And so the difference is that now we have an incompetent moron in charge, and he's not doing the things that Fauci and the rest of the medical experts are doing. But one thing Trump is doing is putting Fauci on television more. And he thinks, well, look, I made him a star. Why isn't he agreeing with me on everything? Why is he challenging me? Why is he criticizing me? I don't understand. But I got to get back to the quote here. One of the people familiar with the comment said, quote, he didn't sound bitter about it. It just sounded like he thought it was worth a reminder. I made this guy a star, I put him on TV. Maybe you should remember that because it's about the ratings. He gets good ratings. And he gets good ratings because I put him there. So they're actually ratings for me. This is ridiculous. The man is a sociopath through and through. All right. And so now, of course, you had that very light criticism of Trump's coronavirus response, right? That happened in the media recently. And of course, saying that we could have addressed it sooner instead of sitting on it for 3 months, well, that didn't go well. According to multiple aides, you had a lot of internal discussions and people going to the media to say, hey, man, well, look, Dr. Fauci, you probably shouldn't have said that, man. Quote, Dr. Fauci needs to be more careful in choosing his words on coronavirus. And if he's going to be critical, make clear what he personally could have done better. Now, that, of course, is Jason Miller, a former senior Trump advisor. And he tweeted that out on on Sunday. But wait, how does that help? What could Fauci have personally done better to get the administration to do better when he's advising the administration and saying, hey, we should do this and this and this? He doesn't have the power of Donald Trump. He can't go out there and, urge people to do emergency declaration or do an emergency declaration himself, right? That's not within Fauci's power. Fauci can basically go and say, hey, this is what I need you to do. So let's do it. Please, this is the policy. These are the facts. This is the policy guidelines that I want you to follow. And please do it, because literally lives are on the line. What more could Fauci have done to do that? Oh, should he have kissed Trump's ass a little bit more? Is that what Donald Trump wanted? Should he have not pushed back on the misinformation about hydroxychloroquine? Or said, oh no, Trump's doing a marvelous job. He's done everything perfect. It's all China's fault. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, again, it gets worse. By Sunday afternoon, prominent Trump allies and surrogates were circulating links and documents showing how Fauci had been inconsistent or made faulty predictions about the virus in recent months, encouraging each other to share them or use them as talking points, according to screenshots shared with the Daily Beast. And by Sunday evening, the president had already, quote, tweeted a post calling on him to fire Fauci over that recent CNN interview. So this is what Donald Trump was up to. Out there defending his administration's god-awful response to the crisis. And, I mean, look, this is after they sat on this for 3 months. You had administration officials. You had even Peter Navarro. And then Dr. Fauci saying, hey, look, we should probably do something. Yes, the travel restrictions on China, for example, as they keep trying to hammer Fauci on for agreeing with the administration. Okay, we should do a travel restriction on China. That would help. But that would only buy some time for the administration to actually do something, which they didn't do. They thought, travel restriction on China. All right, we're done. Problem solved. It'll stay in China. No. Fauci was saying the whole time, I don't think that's going to do the trick. Yes, I agree with it now, but it's still not going to fix the whole problem. We have to prepare for this, and we have to have, things like ventilators. We have to have personal protective equipment. We have to do social distancing. We have to do all this stuff, or else it's going to turn out very, very badly in this country. And guess what? It's turned out very, very badly in this country. Ridiculous. But here's the other thing, right? So now a New York Times report that recently came out painted a picture of Donald Trump, instead of being swayed by the facts, instead being swayed by things like petty politics, one-upsmanship, advice from uninformed business associates, and annoyance at inconsequential conspiracy theories. Oh, and by the way, at the same time, he was telling his officials not to panic. Oh, don't panic. Relax. Now, he had this exchange with Alex Azar. Quote, Mr. Azar was blunt, warning the virus could develop into a pandemic and arguing that China should be criticized for failing to be transparent. Mr. Trump rejected the idea of criticizing China, saying the country had enough to deal with, and the president's decision on the travel restrictions suggested that he fully grasped the seriousness of the situation His response to Mr. Azar indicated otherwise. Stop panicking, Mr. Trump told him. And Trump would, of course, repeatedly display this attitude in public throughout the pandemic's spread. Nearly a month later, he continued to claim to reporters that the coronavirus would simply vanish by April. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear. Trump's 100% wrong. I mean, it's April. It's not gone. In fact, America right now is the highest known infection rate in the world, and we still haven't tested everybody. I think we tested about 2 million people total. No, we're not going to test everybody in this country. At least I highly doubt that we're going to be able to test everybody. But right now, we're not able to test anybody who has who's asymptomatic, unless, of course, you're a congressman or a wealthy, businessman or sports person, any of that. If you're any of those people, then of course you can get tested if you're asymptomatic. That's fine. But if you're somebody who shows mild symptoms or even severe symptoms, sometimes they're not getting tested. And so that's disastrous. Now, I'm also not saying the experts haven't gotten some of their predictions or their timetables a little wrong, of course, right? But the thing is that everything depends on the testing and doing social distancing measures. And also what matters is how seriously we as a people take this. And when you look at the reaction from the conservative side, people who are failing to social distance, right? People calling for example, get-togethers on Easter in churches where they're not social distancing, right? They're getting together, house parties, and all that stuff. And not only that, but straight up conspiracy theories about how it's 5G that's spreading coronavirus. It's all this ridiculous stuff, right? That shows me that we're going to be dealing with this for a very long time, a lot longer than we would need to if we just listened to the experts. And so America, I hate to say it, but America right now is that one kid in class that's going to ruin it for the rest of the world. Nobody gets recess now, thanks to America. That's what it feels like, man. Moving on. The U.S. Post Office is in pretty big trouble. Even prior to the coronavirus outbreak, the Postal Service was having some financial issues. And now here comes Donald Trump, who apparently wants to use the coronavirus to strike the final blow against the post office because Amazon or something. All right, so now the post office, as I said before, they've been hit pretty hard by coronavirus. The service itself projects a loss of $2 billion a month during the crisis of COVID-19. Now, that has led to, of course, a funding shortfall. This is something that they couldn't absorb. And so what they're doing is that they tried to get some extra funding during the coronavirus response package. That was that $2.2 trillion package that passed through Congress. That includes unemployment insurance extensions or expansions, the $1,200 stimulus checks, and up to $5 trillion in corporate welfare. Yeah. So now, among the discussions was a bailout package for the post office. In fact, back on March 24th, in a letter to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, House members Carolyn Maloney, Jerry Connolly said that the USPS might run out of cash by June, and it urged him to include $25 billion in aid in the congressional stimulus bill that, again, had passed Congress. Now, Connolly said in that letter, quote, We are barreling towards a catastrophic collapse if we don't take action. Now, what did the White House do? Well, they would only agree to permit the post office to borrow an additional $10 billion from the Department of Treasury in order to cover its COVID-19 related shortfall. That was at the direct order of Donald Trump, according to a senior administration official. $10 billion. They said, look, if you ask for any more, if you try to get any sort of bailout from this package, right, then I'm going to veto the package. He would kill it. The Post source said, quote, "We told them very clearly that the president was not going to sign the bill if funding for postal service was in it," an official from President Trump's administration told the Washington Post when discussing the $2 trillion coronavirus relief package. "I don't know if he used the V-bomb, but the president was not going to sign it, and we told him that." Well, if you're not going to sign something as president, then that would be a veto. So I'm just saying. Now, you might be wondering why Donald Trump is refusing to fund the post office. I mean, we all rely on the post office. I mean, we all get mail. A lot of us get packages. Not everything comes from, FedEx or UPS. Sometimes the post office handles a lot of those packages and actually makes them quite a bit of money. But here's the thing. Donald Trump hates the post office because of personal grievances. Now, the Republican Party also hates the post office, and let me get to that. Republicans have been trying to privatize the post office for a long time. Part of the plan to do that was to destroy the post office from within, to make sure that it runs out of money. So now, back in 2006, Republicans passed a bill called the Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act of 2006. Now, a lot of people look at that bill and think, well, that's insane, the provisions. Well, what's insane about it? The law requires the post office, which receives no taxpayer subsidies, by the way. The post office is not funded by taxpayers at all. It is funded completely on services, mainly, stamps, postage, and certain business deals with group companies like Amazon, Fed, and other shippers. And so they don't get funded, and yet what they have to do is that they have to pre-fund its retirees' health benefits up to the year 2056. Okay. Now, this costs an estimated $5 billion per year for the post office. So they're barely operating in the black, right? And then they get this gigantic burden put on them to cover them. This is nothing that, this is something that FedEx and UPS don't have to do. No one else has to do this. Only the post office. So that's a problem, right? If they didn't have this cost, they would actually turn a small profit, right? But that's what the Republicans did to it. And of course, they've been like, oh, look at how terrible the post office is doing. I can't believe we have stuff like that. Why don't we just privatize it? Why don't we let FedEx and UPS do it? Well, in order to, and this is what would happen, right? In order to send a letter to somebody through FedEx, it would cost roughly about $15 just for a letter. Whereas all you have to do to send a letter now is buy a stamp, which is like 50 cents or less. Yeah. Now, that's Republicans. So getting back to Trump, this is normal Trump pettiness. Now, Trump's disregard for the post office seems to connect to his disdain for Jeff Bezos, CEO and president of the online retail company Amazon. Bezos also owns the Washington Post, in which Trump hates. Now, look, I also don't like Amazon. I'm also not a fan of their business practices. I'm not a fan of Jeff Bezos, and I'm not a fan of the Washington Post. So I'm very clear about that, right? But what does Washington? But what does the Washington Post, Amazon, and Jeff Bezos have to do with the post office? Well, he thinks the post office is getting ripped off by Amazon, which they're actually not. um, Trump, though, claims that higher internet shipping rates imposed on companies like Amazon, FedEx, and UPS would increase the USPS's budget and help its 600,000 plus workers. However, it might not work that way. The director of physical infrastructure at the Government Accountability Office told the Post that rate hikes would likely lead to shipping businesses looking elsewhere or creating their own delivery methods. But here's the thing. That deal with Amazon is actually beneficial for the post office. They don't lose any money on it. And in fact, parcel delivery is where the post office makes its most money. Regular mail, that's where the post office actually takes its biggest losses because they deliver everywhere, even to places where, obviously UPS, FedEx, nowhere else will go. The post office is, has to deliver to those places that are way, way out of the way. And of course, that's why people rely on the post office. That's why it's so important, because you have people in rural areas that wouldn't get serviced otherwise. And so it's really important that you have the post office to be able to do that, because FedEx and UPS, they're not doing that. They're not going to go out and deliver to the sticks. Okay. That's just not going to happen. And so that's where the post office, and the reason is, of course, because they don't make as much money off that. They take losses. But the post office, when it comes to parcel delivery, that's where they make their money. That's how they stay afloat. And so making that deal with, making deals with Amazon, FedEx, UPS for like last mile delivery is actually pretty beneficial to them. But Donald Trump's irrational. He's driven by irrational hatred of everything Washington Post, because Washington Post says mean things about him. Well, Washington Post says mean things about Bernie Sanders too. They published 16 negative articles in 16 hours. Amazon doesn't pay their taxes. Those are legitimate grievances. For Trump, they say, actual facts against Trump, and he hates that. And so that's the problem there, right? And so here you have, Republicans that are still trying to kill the post office. And now you have Donald Trump, the president of the United States, joining them and not bailing them out. That is a real disaster. Once people, if that happens and the post office is allowed to crash and not be able to fulfill its obligations laid out in the Constitution to do what it's supposed to do, deliver mail, well, that's going to be an absolute disaster for this country. And we have to save the post office. Now, one thing is, since they're not getting bailed out by Trump anytime soon, just buying a sheet of stamps should be able to cover the shortfall until this is over. And I guess if we all do our part, we can protect the post office against morons like Trump. All right. I'm going to take a break. We'll come back. We're probably going to skip the Bernie story, the other one, and we'll just go and talk about grocery store workers. So stay right here. We'll be right back.
Mike Pounds.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Okay. So first, I want to go and thank some patrons, patreon.com/TYT Nation. I want to thank Jordan Brown and Winko the Bernie Bro. So welcome back. And thank you for supporting us, patreon.com/TYT Nation. Okay. Let's see. Channel memberships. I just want to thank our newest member, Kathy Harvey. So thank you, Kathy. If you want to support independent progressive media, you can be a patron, or you can click the join button below and become a channel member. All right. Let's move on. Let's get to the last story here. There we go. Nope. Wrong. There we go. As coronavirus continues to spread around the country, people on the front lines, doctors and nurses who are getting sick and are dying, are being celebrated as heroes. And of course, they certainly are heroes. And we need to make sure to get them the correct personal protective equipment, the resources they need to do their jobs. But people are not really talking about other heroes as well, and that's our essential employees. Now, these essential employees, again, they're deemed essential because they keep society functional. These are people like fast food workers, grocery store workers, sanitation. Well, in some cases, people in grocery stores are getting sick and dying of coronavirus. Now, the Washington Post recently reported on 4 employees from various grocery companies, Trader Joe's, Walmart, and Giant, who were confirmed to have died of COVID-19 or complications. So now, one of those employees was a woman named Leilani Jordan. So Leilani Jordan worked at Giant Foods, and she said that she wanted to keep working because she wanted to help people. Now, she was disabled, eventually got sick, and died from COVID-19. Now, Jordan's mother, Zenobia Shepard, told USA that her daughter worked at the store in Largo, Maryland for about 6 years as part of Giant Food's disability program. So now it's where they allow people with certain disabilities to work at their stores for, of course, reduced pay. And I remember Goodwill had a similar program where they would allow disabled workers to work there for a much lower wage. And a lot of companies have this. I think it's a little bit of exploitation, but she didn't agree because she apparently really loved doing her job. Her mother said, quote, she just loved her little job. She did whatever they needed, helping people. Well, and that's good. The reason that I call it exploitation is mainly because of how low they actually get paid. Not only that, but they get subsidies and things like that. So I think the worker, disabled or not, you should be able to get a fair wage and still be able to do that work. All right. So anyway, now CNN reported that Jordan had cerebral palsy. And so that is apparently one risk factor for coronavirus. But despite the risk of exposure to coronavirus, Jordan told her mother last month that she really wanted to keep working, especially because others were not showing up. She said, quote, Mommy, I'm going to go to work. I'm still going to go to work. I want to help. And so she did. And what happened is that she developed a cough. She developed a fever, then difficulty breathing. So she started having difficulty breathing as soon as she had arrived at the hospital after her mother noticed that she was developing a cough that kept getting worse. By the time she got to the hospital, she'd been put on a ventilator and died. So now the question I have is why Giant Food continued to allow her to work. Look, I understand that she wanted to, right? I get that. And she wanted to help and she wanted to, you know, do her part because she was, these grocery store workers are keeping us running, right? They're part of society that is absolutely essential. But at the same time, she had a disability and she was at risk. And so they should have said, no, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you pay. We're going to do some paid leave because you were massively at risk. And, we don't want anything happening to you. That's what they should have done. Instead, they allowed her to continue working. And then she died. So that's devastating. Absolutely devastating. Now, not only did the company still allow her to work, they also were not providing her with any sort of PPE or hand sanitizer. So no masks, no gloves. I don't think gloves would do very well in this situation. But nonetheless, no hand sanitizer, nothing like that. No PPE whatsoever. I mean, it's not as if they didn't know the risks of coronavirus. Her last day was March 16th. That's when she had the cough, right? The persistent cough that wouldn't go away. And so they knew she was at risk and they allowed her to do it anyway. Now, to add insult to the family that just lost everything, Giant Food gave the mother a certificate and her last paycheck, a total of $20.64. $20. $20. This is a reality of a lot of disabled grocery store workers or disabled workers, but also just grocery store workers who don't make a lot of money either. You have very little pay, right? And it's even worse for the most vulnerable, such as this young woman, and no protective equipment. In fact, workers at Trader Joe's say that they were instructed not to wear face masks and that stores were kept open even after employees tested positive for coronavirus. Workers at Whole Foods had to stage a sick out over conditions they say require many workers to choose between staying home if they feel ill or getting a paycheck, because they would not get paid leave if they, hey man, look, I can't get tested because there are no test kits available, but I don't feel good. I have a persistent cough, or I think I might have coronavirus. Okay, well, take some time off. Well, okay, but I got to pay the bills. Am I going to get paid leave? No, you're not going to get paid leave for it. Well, then I guess I have to come to work. I mean, that again, they're essential. They don't get those benefits. And not only that, but they can't get unemployment benefits. So they cannot stay home until this ends. They have no protections, no benefits, no health care. And yet, we depend on them to survive. We need the grocery stores. We need them to be open because we have to eat. And yet, at the same time, we are not treating grocery store workers like they are essential. This is why I believe that every worker should get a living wage and that healthcare shouldn't be tied to employment. This is why I keep saying that corporations aren't people and should be heavily regulated. Because let's be honest, if a corporation was a person, big Giant Foods would be in jail right now. They should be heavily regulated instead of allowing them to exploit vulnerable people like this for low pay. This is why I believe a job is a job and that there's no such thing as a starter job. I know something that I used to hear a lot before this, right? Is that, grocery store work, not a real job. Working at McDonald's, not a real job. Why don't you go get a real job if you want to get paid real money? Well, where's your real job now? I mean, those people are still out there risking their lives, not because they want to, and in some cases, yes, because they want to, but also because they need to, because they can't afford not to. And we do not protect these people. And so I think that if you're deemed essential, maybe we should start treating you like you're essential, giving you a living wage, making sure you have healthcare, making sure you have PPE to protect yourself, and not just to protect yourself, but protect your customers as well. Because here's the thing. Already grocery stores are saying, well, yeah, we've got people that are, we're short staffed because people are getting sick. People are dying, right? Well, now our problem is who's going to come take these jobs, these garbage jobs? I mean, we're not going to offer them more pay. We're not going to protect them. And right now people have unemployment and those are extended. And so people are making the right decision to go, hey man, I'd rather stay home and stay safe because we have unemployment benefits than go and risk myself as being essential and then possibly get COVID-19 and die. I mean, that's the problem, right? And if no one works those jobs, well, that's an absolute disaster. We're going to have a serious problem. So maybe, I don't know, everybody who tells those workers that they're, that they should get better jobs or, that their jobs aren't real jobs. Well, maybe you should keep that in mind before you tell them to suck it up and survive on minimum wage with no health care. Because right now they are essential and they're basically keeping the United States fed, along with farmers, truck drivers, and all those other essential, important jobs. All right. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation. Please like and share the stream. If you haven't already, please consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/TYT Nation or joining to become a channel member. Thank you guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys later.
Please clap.
Mike Pounds.
Wait, you're getting nervous, man.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.